The finale of House of the Dragon Season 2 has recently aired, and yeah, you did hear that right. It was the finale you watched, not episode 8 of a 10-episode season or a 70-minute trailer for Season 3. What we spent our time watching was the last House of the Dragon focused thing that we'll see for at least 2 years. Underwhelming, right? Don't get me wrong, there were some moments in the finale which were good and enjoyable to watch. However, when looking at this season as a whole, I'm starting to question if we should have seen it coming. Within this video, I'm going to be looking at where I think the show went wrong, how it could have been improved, and determine overall whether or not Season 2 was actually that strong. So let's get into it. Here is why the House of the Dragon Season 2 finale didn't land, or even arrive. Just to let you know, this video will contain spoilers. Where was the battle? One thing that the Game of Thrones universe usually gives us, and something that many of us look forward to, were the battles that we see occurring. Granted, within this season, we got to see the battle at Rook's Rest, which was amazing, and there's a reason as to why that episode is the highest rated one that the show has ever produced. However, my biggest fear when that episode aired, which I said in the video at the time, was that I hoped that the season didn't peak there, and sadly it did, halfway through the season. Within Game of Thrones, the likes of the Battle of the Bastards, the Battle Beyond the Wall, Hardhome, and the Battle of King's Landing are moments that really do stand out and make the seasons have some kind of identity and something that they're actually building towards. A place where all of the political building and conflict eventually erupts. Within this season of the show, it didn't really have that. Rook's Rest was good, but it wasn't a battle with extremely large consequences for the greater good. It turned the tides and allowed Daemon to take control, and Rhaenys obviously died as well, but that was pretty much it. This season felt like it was all about the preparations for war and the Battle of the Gullet, which we were teased with right at the end. However, with us not getting it, I just think it was a real shame. Knowing as well that we have to wait at least 2 years until it returns to our screens, it would have been good if there was some kind of reward in terms of a visually spectacular battle, something which we know the show can produce, and it would have ultimately allowed the season to have gone out in an explosive way. I actually missed the conflict in this season, because even though in Season 1 there weren't a ton of battles, there was conflict that would occur. Whether that be Daemon against the Crab Feeder, Rhaenys coming out of the Dragon Pit in the finale, Lucerys being hunted by Vhagar, and Vermund being killed too. It just felt like what usually makes up the identity of the show was lacking slightly, and it felt prominent most in the finale when what we'd usually expect to see just didn't occur. The lack of true development. Now, I understand that politics have a large role to play in warfare. It's arguably the most important thing, because without it, then what is one fighting for and how does peace become accomplished? However, this season, when looking back at it, it just kind of felt like there wasn't actually that much true development that was made, especially when you look at the scale of what happened in Season 1 of the show. When looking at Season 2, it really does just feel like armies were strengthened, dragons were acquired, and the naval fleet was being prepared. That and obviously Alicent's betrayal as well. There's something about shows this year where it almost feels like they're losing some of their identity as a sacrifice in order to set up the following season. It happened in The Boys Season 4, but they managed to recover it in the final few episodes. It definitely happened in The Bear Season 3 because that was just a shell of what the previous season was. And in this show as well. It's like they just wanted to leave it on a cliffhanger because they almost didn't want to give it away and lose a reason for us to come back, which wouldn't have been the case anyway. So the politics on both sides did have some kind of development, but in terms of the wider story and accomplishments of characters, I don't think it actually felt like 8 episodes worth of change and growth. The world felt really small. So we haven't explored Westeros to the extent that we did in Game of Thrones, and I'm okay with that. But what I'm not really okay with was just how small the world felt in this season of the show. Again, that never really felt like it was the case in Season 1. For example, Dragonstone and King's Landing didn't feel that far away at all. Harrenhal didn't feel that far away either, as Rhaenyra flew there instantly, and it looked like she was there within a matter of minutes. It felt like we were constantly at the shipyard where Corlys was mending the ship and getting prepared for battle, and it was always similar shots inside the castle or inside of King's Landing. All of the backdrops just kind of felt the same, and like the world was never truly getting explored or expanding. I understand that there has to be some kind of consistency because it's obviously the same place, but I feel the universe has never felt this small before. When Tyland was visiting the Triarchy, it actually felt quite nice because it showed that the world was a little bit different to everything that we'd seen, and we saw a slightly different environment. I think this issue probably won't be apparent in the next season, as there's going to be many battles that will be occurring at many different locations. So maybe again, just because of the nature of the way that the narrative was structured in this season, it meant that there was less room for exploration. Even when exploration was happening, for example with Rhaena, Sir Blackwood or Kristen Cole, it just kind of felt like empty fields and no actual destinations. Was Daemon ready to see a Song of Ice and Fire? This is one of the biggest things in the finale that got me. Daemon was having visions throughout the entirety of the season as he was confused over whether or not he should betray Rhaenyra and look to stake a claim for the Iron Throne himself, as it had always been something that he desired. The meaning of these visions were never explicitly explained, but Alice seemed to be the person that was almost feeding them to him to make him question if it was the very thing that he actually wanted. Daemon seeing a Song of Ice and Fire, his death, and essentially what occurred in Game of Thrones felt a bit too abrupt for me. I don't know what truly warranted him being ready to see what was happening, because literally only moments earlier he was still on the cusp of betraying Rhaenyra. It almost felt like he could have been shown that towards the start, and we could have cut all of the Daemon vision scenes, because for the most part, Daemon's temper was getting shorter and he was seeking the power even more. So I did find that being shown to him just a little bit random at that specific point, especially with the profound impact that it had. I think his mind should have been in a more conflicted state, so his mind would have been swayed even more. The amount of episodes in a season. One of the main comments that I saw about the finale, which best described it, was that it felt like an episode 8 in a 10-episode season, and I couldn't agree with that more. TV has changed even in the 2 years since the first season of House of the Dragon aired. We don't really get 10-episode seasons of shows that much anymore. They tend to sit around 8. I don't know why that's the case. I don't know whether it's due to the cost, which could be a large factor as episodes of these types of shows are so expensive to make. Or I don't know whether it's attention span and viewing habits. It could well be a combination of the both of them, to be honest. But with a show like this, I think 10 episodes is vital. There's so much story that's there to be told, and those extra 2 episodes would have made a massive difference when it came to the telling of Season 2. There could have been more room to breathe, and there would have been the opportunity to have seen the Battle of the Gullet actually taking place, rather than us needing to wait 2 years for it. I think the 8-episode model is okay, but it does just always leave you wanting just that little bit more, and holding on to that feeling of it just being slightly incomplete. When looking at this season as a whole, yes, it did contain the highest rated episode House of the Dragon has ever released, but at the same time, its average was significantly lower than that of Season 1. It had episodes in the 6 and 7s, something which Season 1 didn't have any of. I'm hoping that when the show does eventually return, it will look at what made Season 1 so great. The character building, the ever-expanding world, not drastically changing characters that we've come to connect with, and the battles that live long in the memory of us as the viewer as we're immersed into all-out war. So, there you have it, why the House of the Dragon Season 2 finale didn't land, or even arrive. If you want to see a breakdown on House of the Dragon Season 2, then click on the card in the top corner. There's an entire playlist there, or alternatively you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. What did you think of the finale? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.